I just want to take a moment to thank all of you and reflect just a little bit, and I promise I'll be short, on my tenure, 14-year tenure on the council. But first, I really want to take a moment to thank the colleagues who are retiring tonight. And in order to get this right, I'm going to go in order of ward from Ward 4 to 8 so I don't miss anybody. Councilor Gentile's not here this evening, but as all of you know, he has served both the school committee for 8 years and now in the city council for decades as a true advocate for the city. And when I think of Councilor Gentile, I think of someone who always had the best interests of the city in heart. He chaired the finance committee very ably for a number of years. Councilor Gentile also did two things that I think were really admirable. He was always willing to stick to his guns when he thought on a particular position he was right, and he was not afraid to speak and speak quite eloquently about a particular issue. But I also observed Councilor Gentile on numerous occasions build compromise, build consensus, and no greater opportunity than our debate over the village VCOD Act, where together with Councilor Albright, they succeeded in bridging some pretty large gaps. So we were successfully able to get something resolved. And I would say to all of us, those leaving and those returning, the ability to forge compromise in a legislative body is exceptionally important. I would urge all of us to take lessons from that. Turning to Ward 5, I'll start with our ward councilor, Councilor Humphrey, who I think has been the epitome of wonderful ward councilor service. Councilor Humphrey is the type of person, Bill, you're out there, you go talk to the residents, you solve problems, you are passionate about the work that you do. You brought that passion to everything we did here. You also have an encyclopedic knowledge of the rules and procedure, all of which added immeasurably to our work. And for that, I, for one, am very grateful. Councilor Downs, Andrea, you're the person probably the most knowledgeable about transportation and biking and parking issues on this council. You too are very passionate about that work. I always appreciate it, but I always appreciate as well that you did this in a very calm, factual way. You conveyed your views, your information to us. We all have benefited from that tremendously. We're going to miss that a great deal. Councilor Lobovitz, you have the shortest tenure of the retirees, but I had the pleasure of working with you on the land use committee, where I thought you brought an exceptionally calm, deliberative, thoughtful approach to our work, which I think in many ways is the hardest work that we do on this council, because we are in a quasi-judicial capacity. We have to balance so many competing interests, and I think you did that diligently, thoroughly, and with great respect for the residents. And for those who don't know, we're not letting Councilor Lobovitz retire completely, because he is going to be working with Councilor Bixby on the working group for the Newton Highlands task force. Perhaps an unenviable task, but a very important one, and we're grateful for that. Councilor Danberg, you've accomplished so much during your tenure on the council. I wouldn't even know where to begin, but you have been a passionate advocate for the arts and culture in the city. We are far, far better as a community because of that work. I hope I can follow in those footsteps in my term as the mayor of the city. And I have to say, when the snow falls and I shovel my sidewalk, and I do so diligently, I always think of you, Councilor Danberg, and will continue to do so. Last but not least, Councilor Lipoff, we are going to be faced, I think, for how many decades now, for the first time, without a Lipoff or Lappin in this chamber. And that is a remarkable record. The fact that you managed, were able to serve with your dad, who was truly a wonderful person, and your sister, who I am so proud is going to be working with me. So we're not entirely losing the Lipoff family, But Rick, I think you brought a tremendous, measured, thoughtful approach to your work. You always honed into the issue. You always tried to do the right thing, particularly on difficult projects. We are very grateful, and I know you have other things you're going to be doing both in the city and outside. And for everyone retiring, I really hope that this is just a different, you're going to all come back and help us in a different way. So some final reflections on my tenure of 14 years in this council. I could not get off the land use committee, by the way, no matter how hard I tried. I thank my predecessors. I have to start with this. I have been extraordinarily fortunate on the city council to have ward colleagues who were collegial, helpful, friendly, and pitched in. And that was when Mayor Fuller and Councilor Baker was there, and then Councilor Grossman, who stepped up in exactly the same way. For those of you who are new, and there are a number of you, I'm going to urge you to try to form those same kinds of bonds. They are so important. They will help the local residents. And if we solve their little problems, and they're not little to them, they may seem little to us, but they're not little to them, you're going to make this a far better community. And you do that as a team. And in Ward 7, I like to think we truly were a terrific team that's going to be immeasurably helpful. I also have to just say this. This is a large body. Some might say too large. And I'm not going to debate that one way or the other this evening. But what I will say is from each and every one of you, whether it's in a committee meeting or in the full chamber, I have been influenced and changed my mind on a particular issue because of your perspective and advocacy. And that really is amazing when you think about it. I may have come into a meeting having read the materials with a preconceived notion of how I was going to vote. And then I listened to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, however many colleagues felt like speaking that evening, and I changed my mind. And I would therefore would ask all of you to keep an open mind as you come into committee meetings, as you come into the full council. Yes, there'll be occasions when you'll have made up your mind, you'll decide you're clearly passionate about an issue, but take the time to listen to what your colleagues have to say. And don't be afraid to change your mind. And don't be afraid to compromise to get to a final result. Compromise is not a bad word. Compromise is how legislative bodies and governments effectively function. So finally, obviously, I'm not going very far away. I'll be right across the hall, although I can tell you at 10 o'clock at night, I will not be watching a land use meeting. But I am truly grateful for each and every member of this council. Obviously grateful to our clerk's office, to the many department heads and our city employees who tirelessly work day in and day out on our behalf. And I think everyone in this room especially knows that. So thank you all very much.